Oh, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We are live from a news hub at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Coming up tonight, the Ghana city continues to lose grounds against the major trading currencies like the US dollar and the British pound and the euro. Is there an end in sight to this rather unfortunate development? We have a conversation tonight. In fact, businesses also complaining about the direct impact that this is having and a trickle-down effect on all of us consumers. The latest tracking polls by Global Info Analytics in the Ashanti region shows a surge in support for both the NPP's flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and the National Democratic Congress flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama. But who is losing in there? Stay with us here on your Election Command Center. Pressure is mounting on the Electoral Commission of Ghana for an independent forensic audit to be conducted on the voters' register. This time, the call is coming from the minority in Parliament. We'll hear exactly what the reactions has been, and will the EC yield? And should that be the way to go? We have a conversation on this matter here on your Election Command Center. As always, we have Manifesto Check, some 94 days to election date, December 7, 2024. An integral part of the show. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. We remain your Election Command Center, and the conversation, as has always been the case, we start off 3 hours before the show. If you go on our Facebook and an X page, we have a question there. A number of you are already engaging with us. We'll get a lot more into it. Stay with us here as we get into the issues. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The minority in Parliament, Dr. Ocansey has demanded that a forensic audit be conducted into the Electoral Commission's voter registration database, indicating the register is riddled with irregularities. But the majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has urged his colleague to be mindful of partisan comments regarding the election body.
I would want to plead with my respected colleagues to say that the Electoral Commission's register for the 2024 election is not credible, it's very rich. Let's not attack the Electoral Commission and erode the confidence that people have in the Electoral Commission and our democracy.
The issue of Galamsey and its negative effect took center stage on the floor of Parliament, with some MPs accusing each other of causing more damage to Ghana's water bodies. Other issues of national concerns took the attention of MPs who had returned to consider specific issues.
Anybody, whether you are a religious person, you are a traditional person, you are a politician, you are a flag bearer or an MP who politicizes Galamsey operations in this country, this House must take action on that person.
By tomorrow, the minister should appear before Parliament to brief us what they are doing to address these serious problems.
I would want to urge all of us to pursue this matter and not make those civil society organizations helpless. It's a serious matter. Are we now going to process seawater to drink? It will cost the nation.
The tragic death of Edward Bokete Saki, a final year student at Ureli Senior High School, has sparked outrage and renewed scrutiny over the alleged negligence of school authorities. Edward, who was fatally stabbed by a fellow student on campus, was reportedly left unattended to until other students intervened to transport him to a nearby health facility where he died. This latest incident adds to a growing list of student fatalities, raising urgent concerns about safety in senior high schools. 2023 State Ownership Report has revealed that 4 state-owned enterprises have consistently recorded losses over a 5-year period. From 2019 to 2023, Director General for State Interest and Governance Authority, John Boedu, explained that some of these losses are necessary in order for the state to keep providing certain essential service to the citizenry.
They are also the ones that make a lot of the losses because of the space they find themselves. So you can see companies like ECG, Ghana Water have not only the financial or profit-making function, they also have a function that ensures that the citizenry also benefit from the services that they provide. And you can see that clearly, that it is because of some of those services that they provide that lead to these losses that they make.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, the battleground in the Ashanti region, the stronghold of the NPP, indeed, and also the movements that we are seeing right now, some less than 3 months to election 2024, is a focus for tonight here on your Election Command Center. Very interesting turn of events as the NPP seeks to do something unprecedented. And, well, as you know, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if you've monitored elections from 1992 up until now, you would know for sure that the NPP does not struggle, doesn't lose any sweat winning the Ashanti region. Obviously, that's their World Bank, that's their stronghold. And there are a number of things they've had to do going into this election to galvanize support for the party in the Ashanti region. But then again, take a look at the trends. And it tells a story that we are not surprised about. From 1996 all the way to 2020, you should pay attention to the winning margins that the NPP has posted over the period. 65.8% in 1996 in the Ashanti region for presidential, at least. In the year 2000, John Ejekum Kufuor polled 74.8% of the total valid vote cast in the Ashanti region. In 2004, they had the highest votes for the presidential in the Ashanti region, 77%. And then 2008, it dwindled to 72.5%. That's when Nana Danko Akufo-Addo showed up. Then in 2012, it dwindled again down to 70.9%. The NPP lost that election. John Mahama won. In 2016, take a look at it. When Nana Danko Akufo-Addo won that election, the Ashanti region showed up strongly for the party, 76.3%. But in 2020, there was a dwindle or a drop in the total valid vote cast for the NPP in the Ashanti region, the stronghold of the party, 71.6%, as against in 2016 when they won that election with 76.3%. Then it stands to reason exactly what's going on. But then again, if you see, every time there's a drop in the votes for the NPP in the stronghold, the NDC appreciates in the valid vote cast. 26.08% is what the NDC polled in the Ashanti region with an additional seat in parliament, right? But then again, if you look at how things have played out, especially when it comes to the trends over the period for the region, it tells a different story. The NDC is seeking to have an edge and then also increase their showing in the Ashanti region. You've heard a number of them, the likes of Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak talk about 30% for the party, between 30 and 35%, all things being equal. The NPP wants to do something unprecedented. They want to win the Ashanti region with 85%. That's the target for the Ashanti region going into this election, 85%. It's never happened. You see that? Even though they've won this region, it's their stronghold, it's unprecedented. But this is what Matthew Poku Prempeh said when he was outdoored in the Ashanti region just some couple of months ago, that's the target of the party. Take a look.
Someone coming one man said Dr. Baumia, and in a Nakufu and Nimonyama, a bigger day, and coming. It's Yabasum, Yabere, Yabasum, Yabere, Yabere, Yabakofium, Yabakofium. I could send another Nakufu to Nimopo, yeah, I'm a Dr. Baumia and 80. Dr. Baumia, to be what I say, you're 12. Young person with 10% was as we do. Which President Minister Carl said, I deal with your headache. Yes, I deal with your headache. I deal with your headache. 85%. Yeah, Pastor 85 in your we see you per day.
85%.
We see you per day.
85%.
Outside the middle 85 no. And then pay for the master there. Obia wa MPP mu. I was in fear watching. Obia ne bone. Obia kasetiano.
And tomorrow will be exactly 2 months that Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh was announced, or as it were, presented and eventually approved by the party's council, that's the Alisa Hotel here in Accra, even before the unveiling eventually in the Ashanti region. But then again, look at this. In the year 2020, when we saw that drop to 71%, the NPP now wants to increase this to 85%. That's the target going into this election year. One of the other reasons why they chose Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, apart from this, was to galvanize the base of the party. As to whether that's happening right now, we'll have a conversation on that shortly. But let's go into the polls now. What are the polls saying? Because beyond this, Global Info Analytics has been testing the pulse of the Ashanti region 3 months to the election 2024. They did this poll in the month of August. It shows a number of things and a number of questions that they asked. There was a 95% confidence level for this poll that polled some 3,500 people from 14 constituencies in the Ashanti region. Take a look at this. A number of the questions they asked. It says, how likely will Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh's nomination influence their vote? In July, about 58% of the respondents said it would likely influence them. In August, it shot up to 59%. But if you see those who say it is unlikely to also influence their decision on whether to vote for the NPP or not, it also increased as well. The neutrals have it in there as well. When it comes to the direction of the country, in the Ashanti region, in these 14 constituencies that Global Info Analytics did their poll, 48% of the respondents say the country is headed in the right direction. Guess what? 47% in the stronghold of the NPP say the country is headed also in the right direction in the month of August. But take a look at this. In the month of July, 47% of the respondents said the country is headed in the wrong direction. In the month of August, 50% of the respondents say the country is headed in the wrong direction. That's an increase from 47 to 50% between July and August. And this July poll was done 2 days after Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh was unveiled as the party's running mate going into this election. Now take a look at this. Based on Global Info Analytics polls, in the month of April, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, that question was asked, if the elections was held in the month of April, what would the showing be in the Ashanti region? 54% of the respondents in the month of April said they were going to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Baumia in the Ashanti region. Fast forward to the month of July, it increased to 65.4%. That's when Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh was announced as the running mate to the flag bearer. In August, between 28th and 30th of August, when Global Info Analytics went back to the Ashanti region, that has increased to 67%. The respondents who say they're going to vote for Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. That is way below the 85% that they say they want to win in the Ashanti region. And you understand why they are doing it. They have the target of 85%. If you get it, the work that you have to do in the other regions is quite lower for you to even win the election. But look at what the NDC is also having a showing there. John Mahama, in April, 31% of the respondents said they were going to vote if the elections were held in the month of April in the Ashanti region. July, it dropped to 23.7%. Now, guess what? In August, it's increased to 27.6% of the respondents saying if the elections were held in the month of August, 27.6% of the respondents in the Ashanti region say they're going to vote for the NDC. But the Movement for Change, Alan Chamanting, and it's instructive that we put him there because that's his home region as well. And there are many people who say that if the NPP has anything to worry about, they should also be worried about Alan Kojo Chemanting. They've always watered down the effect of Alan Chemanting, but then again, take a look at this. It's putting up a showing there as well. Musa Dankwa is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. He's joining us on Zoom for a conversation on what we're seeing right now and whether this 85% votes for the MPP, their target, is going to be realized. So Dankwa, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. From your analysis, has the Napo effect started playing out already for the MPP or to their advantage? Because we do know that's one of the major objectives they had, selecting him to galvanize the base of the party in the stronghold to help them achieve the 85% that they want to get in the elections. Is it happening already?
Alfred, there are two ways of looking at it. One is to look at the overall effect in the region, and then also the overall effect within the MPP base. I think if you look at his impact on the MPP base in Ashanti region, I think he's doing well. Because in between July and or August and September, the poll we just did, it shows that among those who are MPP, Mohamed Bawumia's numbers went up nearly 4% compared to the August poll. He has increased in the base, MPP base. But then if you look at the floating voters, who appear to be a sizable population of the Ashanti voters now, about 12% or 15%. In the floating voters, that is where I think the effect is becoming a drag, because it appears that Bawumia's support among the floating voters is shifting in Ashanti region. And this can be attributed to the effect of the ticket.
I see. Now, there are two things that you say in here. That, yes, the Napo effect is playing out. You know, it's actually, you're seeing it. It's having an impact in the region. But then again, in terms of the floating voters in the stronghold of the party in the Ashanti region, Dr. Bawumia, per your poll, is losing grounds in there as well. One of the major objectives in selecting Dr. Matupoku Pepe as his running mate was to galvanize the base of the party to help them achieve this 85% target for the Ashanti region, as you heard Dr. Matupoku Pepe saying there. We have 94 days to the election, December 7. From the latest poll that you just did in the month of August, which we are seeing this outcome, 67, will this 85% target be achieved based on what you know?
Absolutely not. It is not an achievable target. If you look at the current poll we just did, Dr. Bawumia is on 67%, Mahama on 28%, Alan on 3%, Bediako 1%, and the rest of the candidates 1%. Now, look at the numbers now, 67 compared to 85 is way off. For them to even hit 80%, they need Bawumia, so they need Mahama and Alan to collapse totally in the region. And we know that will not happen because Mahama's numbers are solid. Mm-hmm. They are core NDC people who, come what may, they will come and vote. Those who are not willing to vote in the region are mostly MPP voters.
I see. You put an emphatic no to the 85% target that the MPP has for its stronghold Ashanti region in this election. As we saw, the historical analysis, the trend we've seen over the period from 92 to date, the highest they had was about 77%. They want to do something unprecedented. And you're saying, based on your polls and how you're projecting for the next 3 months, this 85% is not possible?
Yes, I do. And because none of the polls that we have carried out recent times, with the exception of the first announcement of NAPO, where Bawumia hit 73%. And since then, the numbers has declined. and then went up marginally this time again. So the numbers have not been very great. And remember, in the first poll that it was 73, Mahama was 15%, and NDC has never gotten 15%. So we expect Mahama to be in the mid-20s, upper 20s, maybe 30% in this election. And if that happens, it is not possible to see how they can manage even 80%.
That's a very interesting and instructive statement that you make there. Based on the details of your poll you see now and the dynamics, especially in the floating voters area, you don't see this 85% target by the MPP being achieved. But how about Alan Chimanting as well? Because from the polls that you've done in April and July and also in August, is one potent threat to the MPP in the stronghold, is it not? Because that's his home region as well. But then again, I see that he has lost some grounds based on the latest poll that you put out, dropping to a little over 3% in or amongst the persons that you polled. What's accounting for that?
Again, it's in the floating voters. And I think things are conspiring against Alan somehow. It appears people want to be resolute. I mean, when you speak to voters over the phone or even in the field, the feedback we get is that some have a fear Alan may not necessarily win. And for that matter, they are cautious in terms of voting for him, even though they like him. So you could see in some cases people prefer him, but when it comes to voting for him, then you see them taking some other decisions. And I believe that is what is going to disturb Alan a bit. He must be forceful and more direct with the people and telling them why they should vote for him and why voting for him is not a wasted vote. And I think that he has to do a lot more of that. Otherwise, people will flee his column into Mahama's column. And that's what we have seen in the Ashanti region. In fact, in the poll in the Ashanti region, he dropped nearly 6%. And 71% of that drop in terms of overall numbers went to John Mahama in the Ashanti region. That is why Mahama went from nearly 24% to 28% in the poll.
Mr. Danko, I appreciate your time, and we remain your election command center. Some 94 days to election day 2024. And we'll keep how things play out in the Ashanti region, especially keep an eye on that here on your election command center. Well, this is a place to be across all media journal platforms here on your election command center. Coming up next, we focus on the troubled Ghana city, which has in the past days been struggling against the major trading currencies. And look, we see the impact and effect around us in many ways, especially the private sector, the business community, already having a direct impact on what is happening as a result of the depreciation of the city, the falling value of the city against the major trading currencies. Earlier today, we visited some forex bureaus to find out exactly what the health and strength of the city is against these other currencies, and it's not looking good. Well, last week, the finance minister indicated that the city is relatively stable. Okay? The relativity of the stability of the city is what we wanted to see. So this is what we saw at the forex bureau that we visited earlier today. Take a look.
Last week, the beginning of last week, the rate was 15.8 or so, yes. Then before the week ended, it had crossed 16. The beginning of this week, it keeps on going up every single day by 0.1 or 0.5. And the customer, so whenever a customer comes in, customer sees the rate. Assuming the customer has maybe CDs and he wants to buy dollar, assuming the customer has 20,000 CDs, the customer wants to buy dollar. He comes in and sees that the rate is 15 days. The customer comes in the next day or the next 2 days, buy the dollar and you see that the rates have gone up to 16 or 16.4, to be difficult for the person to change. And that's what we're facing now. Customers rarely coming, and those who have dollars to change to relax because they realize that the rates are going up, so they don't come and change. They'll have to wait for it to stabilize and see when the rate gets to the point they want before they come in and change.
So that's Emmanuel. He's one of the operators of a Forex Bureau here in Accra, which we visited him earlier today to just have an idea of what's going on. You see the cedi there, 16 cedis, 40 pesos to the dollar. That is if you're going to buy. But if you're exchanging 16 cedis, 15 pesos, depending on how much you're changing for that matter, the pound is gone over 20 cedis. Right? And it's not looking good. The business is already complaining. Some onion sellers have also been telling us the ordeal and what they've been going through over the period. We'll hear from them shortly. Professor Patrick Esuming is a development economist, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, joining us on Zoom for a conversation on this. Professor Esuming, appreciate your time here on Ghana Tonight. The finance minister's verdict on this cedi situation is that it's relatively stable. But as at the time, it was just about almost 16 cedis. Now it's crossed the 16 cedis mark. What's going on?
Well, I think that, there can be a couple of factors that you can identify. I think the recent announcement by Cocoa Board regarding the syndicated, which suggested that we are not going to get the usual September to October boost in reserves, might be contributing to it. I think the whole uncertainty about Cocoa Board saying something and the finance minister appearing to contradict him, all of that doesn't help. And then I think in recent times, the announcement that we are also going to import more grains or import more food and also restrict our exports, all of those might be contributing to it. But you also have to say, as the election draws near, the uncertainty about the election outcome and maybe sending some jitters to some investors, this may all be contributing to why the cedi depreciation appeared to be accelerating recently.
I see, and that's an issue because you talk about the contradictory positions that Cocoa Board put out earlier. They were going to look internally to raise the money to buy the cocoa beans for the season. The finance minister at that press conference last week said something to the contrary. But we're going to show the board as we saw, the Forex Bureau as we go on. But then again, the finance minister, I recall, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, was quite clear in his pronouncement a couple of months ago, sometime in the month of June, that the cedi was actually going to rebound after the 24th of June when he was addressing a town hall meeting in the UK, and that we're going to see dramatic turnaround for the strength of the cedi and things are going to get better. But we're not seeing that right now because as at the time he made that statement, we're about almost 14 cedi 80, 15 pesos to the dollar. And then now we're talking about over 16 cedis to the dollar. $360 million, the third tranche of the IMF money has come through. It hasn't had any significant impact on the strength of the cedi. So really, there's something wrong somewhere, is it not, Professor Patrick Esuming? Because if it's just about borrowing to sustain the value of the cedi, then we have a problem, isn't it?
I don't know. I wouldn't use the term Ponzi scheme, but the description is that, when people say, oh, in the 2017 to 2019 period, or even 2021 in particular, the currency was stable. It's because those years we were borrowing heavily from the international capital market to support the cedi. So there are a lot of dollar inflows. And now that, since we lost that in 2022, late 2021, and since 2022, we've all seen how the currency has been behaving. So that's what has been happening. the economy is so dependent on foreign financing as well as foreign goods that it's very difficult for any particular government to control how the city moves. And I think that's where we are. That's why one party can promise that we stabilize the city. And sometimes, unfortunately, when external factors blow in such a way that strengthen the city, we are quick to take credit. But then we also know that it's really not the doing it's not any fundamental changes we made in our economy that will bring such a stability. So really, if any government says in the short term they are going to stabilize the city, it has to be going out there and relying on some inflows.
Well, but the vice president was quite clear when he met some journalists a little over a week ago. He did admit that that statement was true then, and it is indeed true now, that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. But the exception he puts to our situation now is that that statement cannot really apply in its full sense of the word, because what is happening to the currency now is an exceptional situation. It cannot be the case that because the currency is not doing well, the fundamentals are necessarily weak. How about that?
Well, I don't think in the last 8 years or so we've had any weaker, or even in the last decade, I don't think our fundamentals have been weaker than they are now. I mean, the management of the macroeconomy has not been very good at all. And this country has become even more dependent on imported goods. And the whole expectation about how economy is working, they are in very bad places. So I think it's hard for anybody to make an argument that the current movement in the currency is not driven by weak fundamentals.
I see, but is the flag bearer of the MPP seeing something that probably, for instance, the academia or you as an economist is not seeing, because of that insistence that it cannot be wholly true, that even though the city is not doing well, the fundamentals are not necessarily weak, as the statement says, or what he said years back?
I think that's what I'm telling you. So if strong fundamentals means relying on international borrowing to show up your currency, then I don't know what kind of fundamental that is. The city's long-term fundamentals are driven by our import and exports, remittance inflows, and also foreigners investing in our country, and then vice versa. And we see the only thing that has been stable is the remittances. Foreigners have been withdrawing their funds in droves from the economy, even though our trade balance is very solid. It looks very strong because the value of our import of merchandise is lower than the export of merchandise. The problem is that because we've relied on so much external financing, now the export or the export of investment income it's been a big problem for us. So it means companies that when they were coming in were smiling, saying that there's confidence in the economy. Now they are making a lot of profit and then sending it back in dollars. And all of that explains why, even though our trade balance is strongly positive, and it's been positive since 2017, the current account is still strongly negative. So there's a component of the current account is not just our merchandise goods. That's the trade balance. There's the services, and we do import a lot of services. And then there's the investment income. This is where people who have invested in the economy, either they are taking out their dividends, their profits, or their interest on their loans. Those ones have gone up so much because we have relied on foreign financing for a long time. Now, we are now seeing the consequences. These are the fundamentals. So, and those, whichever way you look at it, there's significant weaknesses.
I see, but we have just about some 3 months, a little over 3 months to end the year, getting into the last quarter of the year. Now, from where you sit, Do you see the fortunes of the city at least turning around before the end of the year? Some significant improvement in the value of the city against the trading currencies like the dollar and the pound?
Now, we've heard news that there are some inflows coming from the World Bank. Now, I don't know how the market is treating that news, but generally, when you hear new inflows, that should be movement. So the only short-term solution, the only short-term way we can stabilize the currency is if we get some inflows from somewhere, which, we don't have new ones on the horizon. I think the ones that people traditionally expect that we get from the syndication, there's some uncertainty around that. But outside of that, it's difficult to see any solution coming our way. I think what we should be doing is to be ready to endure the short-term pain and now start doing the basic things, what we can do to support local industries and to encourage consumption of made in Ghana so that we can cut our imports. And usually that should start with the government because, Alfred, you and I, when we have worked and we have been paid and we go to the market to buy, our taste will decide what you do.
Right.
But when the government is procuring, it can make a firm decision that this is the funds of the Ghanaian public. So we are only going to spend on Ghanaian goods. Or we are going to spend in such a way that we are going to cut imports. And mind you, I think the last budget that was read by the former finance minister said we are going to do all those cutting of importation. So clearly we know what we have to do.
Right.
I don't know what has happened since because it looked like our import bills keep rising. And we are now saying we are even going to import more food because of drought. I think all of this tells us that, our problems are nowhere solved.
And that's the harsh reality that we're faced with. But I thank you so much for joining us, Professor Patrick Esuming, who's an economist. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And talk about Ponzi scheme. You mentioned that in passing. The Ghana Police Service issued a statement not too long ago. Operation yesterday, 2nd September 2024, they've arrested 487 suspects who are members of the Ponzi scheme known as KillNet. KillNet in Kumasi, 200 females and 230 males were arrested in a house located at Ejuman near Kenyasi, a suburb of Kumasi. So that's information from the Ghana Police Service. Some 487 people, suspects of a Ponzi scheme known as KillNet, have been arrested in Kumasi, Ashanti region. Keep an eye on that. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight after this quick break. What promises have the political parties made to the Zango communities? And what is it about this mortuary talk? Stay with us. Manifesto Check is out after this quick break. Welcome back. We remain your election command center. Let's get into manifesto check right now. Promises made and promises being made going into this election, and the Zongo communities also have an expectation. They are an integral part of the demographic, is it not?
Really, they are. And most of the parties, knowing this, try to tap into that constituency to get as many votes as possible from those constituencies. So usually they make promises that are targeted at the Zongo communities. But let's take a look at this video. I think this is something that happened over the weekend, so that we can put it in proper context. And that will link us to our manifesto check for today.
What is Zongo now to my end this year? Or Bob was sorry die. Oh, we are a watching. Now who are what could them? Obese hospital, no BC Mochi. Open hospital and Upper Mochi. Open hospital and Upper Mochi. Obama School, Obama School and Obama School. Obama School and Obama School. Open Candia and Upper Zoom. Open Candia and Upper Zoom. Open MPP and INDC. Open MPP and INDC. Open Mahomes.
So that's Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, running mate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He was campaigning somewhere in Kranza, where he makes the case that if the people in the Zongo community vote for the NDC, they will come and break down their mosques and build mosques for them. This is not the first time we are hearing some conversation about how the NDC supposedly is building mosques for people in the Zongo communities, and then the MPP is either building schools or something else. Somewhere 2020, September 2020, that was in the run-up to the 2020 election,
right.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia also had a similar thing to say about how the MPP would be building schools for the Zongo communities, and then the NDC would build mosques for the communities. Let's take a look at that particular video as well. This was in September 2020.
Nyamia dum inshallah ye government bioma. Every region bia ye besi model senior high school Amazongo communities. And ene ka say ye de ye penim die. Enye mochiri na ye besi amamu. Enye mochiri na ye besi Amazongo for ye besi schools. Na yen krano omanya nimdie. Yen pem mochiri ye free education.
So you would notice that this is the same script that, Bawumia now, the flag bearer, his running mate, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is also reading from. Exactly. But what is this mock thing all about? When you look at the NDC Manifesto 2020, they actually had a promise where they said that they were going to facilitate the establishment of mosques in accordance with Islamic customs and practice. So this, yes. So this is the promise that they keep referring to, that the MPP and the NDC promised the Zongo communities to build mosques for them.
And has it been repeated in the 2024?
That has been repeated in the 2024 manifesto, where it is captured as saying that they want to establish Islamic mosques at some major hospitals for the early retrieval and burial of corpses according to Islamic customs.
And that's a major issue, right?
Exactly.
Because for the Islamic community, this challenge
yes, it's a big challenge for them. And the NDC thinks that it is something that they can provide for. This is the context within which you hear this conversation about NDC wanting to build mosques for the Zongo communities. But then again, if you listen to Bawumia carefully, where he talks about the MPP wanting to build senior high school and model Zongo senior high schools for the Zongo communities, that was a promise that they made to the people of the Zongo communities. That was in 2020, where they said that through the Zongo Development Fund, in collaboration with Get Fund, they were going to build 16 model senior high schools in Zongo communities across the 16 regions of the country. This means that each region was supposed to get what they called a model Zongo senior high school. This has been repeated in 2024. Now, when you ask the question, what has become of the promise that has been made in 2020, where are the 16 Zongo model senior high schools? I don't know where they are. The man in charge, we've spoken to him, the man in charge of the Zongo Development Fund, in fact, the Zongo Development Secretariat, that's Ben Abdallah Banda. We spoke to him somewhere in March, and he clearly admitted that as of March, nothing had been done yet, except that drawings were ready, but we don't see any building. Let's just take a listen to him.
There were some module schools that were going to be built for Zongo communities. What is the current status of those module schools?
All the
16 regions.
Yes, all the drawings, all the lands, the plots, the parcels of lands have been acquired. The drawings are ready. Yes, we said it. And we're going to deliver on our promise. We are waiting for the resources to commence the construction of same. We want to at least start 3 by the end of this year. And then in next year, inshallah, when Vice President becomes the President, then we'll continue.
I see.
Yes, so, I mean, clearly, he's admitted that as of March, nothing really had been done except that they had secured lands, drawings were ready, and that they were going to start 3. When the Vice President was asked, yes, during his press engagement, he also did admit that nothing really has been done in that regard. And it is in that regard that you find it that Construct 16 Senior High School repeated in the 2024 manifesto.
I see.
So we are talking, I mean, this was something that the president, I mean, excuse my language, but bragged so much about to say that for them, they will give schools, not mosques. Now we are in 2024, there's no school.
When was the first time that promise was made, that the model schools for the Zongo community, the 16 models?
Well, as far as we checked, that was in 2020.
2020, so
yes.
4 years on.
So 4 years, we are still having the same thing that has been done.
So not even one has been constructed?
No, as we speak.
See, and
the verdict always is with the people.
With the Zango people.
Yeah, for this one, it's with the Zongo people to decide.
Say Zango.
Zango.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but Dennis Boberi Wadam is manifesto checker here. You know, trust that we will get into it and certainly let you know what's happening and here on your election command center. But there's some news just coming in. The special prosecutor has been petitioned to investigate the involvement of the vice president, that's the flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in the PDS scandal. The petitioners are citizens of Ghana with special interest in the fight against corruption and are in pursuance of their right as citizens submitting this petition to the Office of Special Prosecutor to investigate the above stated subject matter. And they give a general overview about the whole PDS scandal, 2019, October all the way. Essentially, the thrust of this petition is for the Special Prosecutor to investigate the reported involvement of the vice president in this PDS scandal. That's going to be exactly what they're asking the special prosecutor to do. And this is just news coming through. We'll keep an eye on that. We're back shortly after this quick break here on Ghana Tonight. Some more. Stay with us.
Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathy Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what other
Welcome back. Coming up next, despite the assurances by the Electoral Commission that the voters register is credible, the minority wants a forensic audit into it. And this was following up on yesterday when the Electoral Commission did admit that indeed there were some errors as a result of the just ended voter exhibition exercise. Here's Dr. Bosman Asari at that press conference yesterday. Take a look.
The Commission is currently investigating. While the Commission does not have any evidence to believe that this occurrence is widespread, we have instituted investigations to ascertain if similar incidents occurred elsewhere beyond the reported case in the Tamale South and Sagneregu constituencies. Any such transfers will be reversed. Following this incident, the Commission has introduced a liveliness check in the verification process, which is a feature designed to ensure that the biometric data being captured is from a live, present human being and not from a spoof source, such as photograph, which is what was done in this case. The liveliness check has since been built into the system to prevent any such future occurrence.
So is that the issue there? That admission is what has led to the minority in Parliament, led by Dr. Kesela Toforsing, asking for a forensic audit of that register going into the election. Take a look.
The Electoral Commission has admitted that the voter register is riddled with irregularities and flaws. I dare say, Mr. Speaker, the scale of these irregularities is such that someone may have tampered with the voter register database. Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to say that we cannot vouch for the integrity of the voter register as it stands at the moment. The details of these irregularities are so fatal and cannot be accepted. We therefore demand a forensic audit into the voter register database.
So that's the demand by the minority led by Dr. Kesela Toforsing. In fact, his constituency also witnessed some anomalies there. The EC admitted to that effect as well. And Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, in fact, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo had a few things to say about the Electoral Commission and why there's some concern about what has to be done right going into the election. Take a look.
I have been part of coup d'etats in this country, and I know what I'm talking about. I have spent almost 5 years of my life in prison. We are not leaders. I am saying that at the moment, the greatest threat to our democracy is the Electoral Commission. That is the greatest threat to our democracy.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Thank you for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us again, same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.